Good morning, good afternoon, mazel tov, whatever you're experiencing. I'm still riding my mazel tov high from my show that I love, that all of you guys love too. Anyways, hi, and welcome back to another episode of The Summer of Me. Today, we are talking about the messy middle. Real quick before we get into it, if you are not following over on YouTube, all of our episodes are on video there. So if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you can go watch videos on YouTube. We also have a bunch of YouTube shorts up, and we're going to be doing some exclusive YouTube content in the coming months. So make sure you are subscribed, smash the subscribe button over there, and you'll be the first to know what is happening. I've had enough moments of honesty. I'm so fucking tired of being honest, but you know what? This is just life. And I have a vulnerability hangover every day, all day. I called one of my friends the other day and I was like, what if I just delete everything? Like, what if I just go dark? What would life be like? It would probably be like very freaking peaceful and relaxing, but it's just not my DNA apparently. So just a confession for you guys. I don't even know if you could call it imposter syndrome, but I feel like my life at this moment in time, and at any given moment, honestly, over the last decade, has been sort of messy. And I kind of mentioned this on social media if you follow me there, but I feel like I'm just like in this kind of unkept emotional time in my life where like I don't actually know what's happening. I don't know how to solve all of my problems. I feel like I don't have a clear view of like what my future is looking like and all of these things. And I just sort of feel messy, which I know I'm not alone. Like I'm fully well aware because a lot of you guys will message me and be like, thanks for sharing. Me too. Like misery loves company. But sometimes when it comes to like podcasting or feeling like you should have some sort of like maybe authority or like giving advice or whatever, like you feel sort of, I feel sort of like an imposter or just like who the hell am I to give advice? Like I am a hot mess. Like I doom scroll sometimes for 2 hours at a time. And like I have I have no advice for you except for I hope you make it. Like I hope you make it through. So I'm not a quitter, and I am, like I said, naturally gonna just overshare. But I always wanted to come at this from like a very honest place and let you know that like while I sit here and like tell you like here's some things to handle this or here's 5 ways to do this, like I'm giving myself that advice just as much. And if you feel like, wow, like, if she can do it, so can I. Like, I'm like, if you can do it, so can I. Like, because we're all kind of, as I always say, like we're all just walking each other home. Like I am in the thick of the thick with you guys. Yeah, I don't know. Like I listen to other podcasts sometimes and I'm like, well, that person's like uber qualified or they really have their shit together. And I like the phrase that like keeps me up at night and haunts me is like those that can't do teach. And I don't ever want to be that person that's like, here, let me teach you like how to be successful, or let me teach you how to be like vulnerable or communicative and all these things. And I'm not living that myself. Because you see that very often. Like it's just people will be like, here's how to like have a really healthy marriage, and they're all fucking single. And I'm like, well, interesting. Tell me about it. Tell me more about it. But I just want to like come at this always from a place of like honesty and real raw, like a mess, basically. So anyways, that's the foreword to this episode, the epilogue or prologue, whatever it might be. Anyways, as an add-on to today's episode is just talking about like how to live in the messy middle, which I feel like is where I'm at in my life right now. I just feel like rewind 6 months ago when I was at a very peaceful place. I kind of knew like what to anticipate for my future. I thought things were going to look a certain way. And, that's just like life. You think that like you have everything going swimmingly and then bam, like something changes overnight. If there's one thing that I have learned from all of this, it's like to not expect things to just like be great forever, or to not resist change, or just to be knowing that like things are going to change. And it might not always be like so dramatic and drastic and like your whole world flips upside down, but like the only as I sound like a Hobby Lobby sign, the only constant is change. And it really is so fucking true. So I am in the messy middle, as I know so many of you are. And I'm just going to share, I think I wrote down like 9 or 10 things that really I kind of try to do to stay afloat. There's some days where I'm like, I I'm not even trying to thrive today, dog. I am trying to just survive. Like, I'm just trying to live, like E. Case in point. I'm just trying to live. Live. I'm trying to live, actually. There's days where I wake up and I'm like, I don't got it. Like, I'm not going to make it. Like, I am not going to make it through the day. And then there's days I wake up and I'm like firing on all cylinders and I feel good. And I feel like, fuck this. Nobody else has, like, I have the power today. And there's no predicting like which day that's going to be. And, so, you wake up every morning and just hope for the best. But there are ways that there's little things that like, I feel like sort of help. And some days one might help more than the other. So number one, I really swear by words of affirmation. It is we've talked about spiraling before, and it's something that I'm honestly amazing at. I'm really good at spiraling. And like obsessing over thoughts and like just becoming totally enveloped by like what's going to happen and how is this going to play out. And like, I create false realities that like are so massive. I should probably like just make TV shows or something, because like I have created every outcome, every scenario, and what happens after that and that and that. And like, we're 10 decades down the road, and like, I'm not even going to survive that long. So words of affirmation and like phrases, mantras are really, really helpful to me in this season of my life. I'm going to read my 3 that I have on my mirror. These change obviously depending on what you're going through and where your head's at and what's happening. But like right now, the 3 that I really live by are, what if it all works out? Number 1. What if it all works out? I think I heard this on like a Mel Robbins podcast, and like the phrase floats around the internet and Pinterest and everywhere else. But like, we always assume worst case scenario. Like our brain is like, okay, it's not going to work out. Like it's going to go this, and then this is going to happen. And like, have you considered the alternate, which is like, what if it all works out? Like, what if it all actually happens the way you want it to happen, or like a variation of that? And like, it's okay, because the chances of that happening are fairly high. Also, like, what if it all works out? Like, it doesn't necessarily shake out the way that you wanted it to, but like it works out so much better, which obviously like, it's a very long life, and like chances of something just being shit forever are slim to none. So number 1, I say to myself all day, like when I'm spiraling, what if it all works out? Like, what if it all works out? Number 2 is show me how good it can get, God. Like, show me how good it can get. You can fill in God for whoever you believe in. Show me how good it can get, Ryan Gosling. Really though, like I tend to like wake up and think like, oh, the kids are going to be in a bad mood, and then I'm going to have to do this work thing. And like, I'm an optimist at heart, but in these moments where you're just like in the mess and you're in the mud, like it's really easy to just think like negative. And so I wake up every morning, like, show me how good it can get. Like, what's like, I want to look, because it also programs your brain to like look for all the good things. Like, oh my gosh, my coffee was perfect this morning from Starbucks. Apparently it's like taboo to drink Starbucks these days, but like my coffee was good from Starbucks this morning. I'm sorry to say. And like, just, you start to seek out like all of the things that make your day really good. And also like, we limit how good things can get. Like we think, oh, well, best case scenario, like, I get through the day with feeling X, Y, and Z. But I think that sometimes we underestimate like truly how good our day can be, or our week can be, or the outcome of a scenario can be. And then the last one is, I am responsible only for myself, and I rejoice in who I am. This is the day that the Lord has made. Any of you guys raised in church? That one particularly is important for me, because I tend to want to control what other people are doing. I tend to want to figure out like how to make an outcome be a certain way with somebody else. And it's really important to remind myself that I am only responsible for myself, and I rejoice in who I am. I get to be this person, and I celebrate this person, and I don't resent the hell out of myself. I try not to resent the hell out of myself for making the decisions I've made or for feeling the way I feel. And that's a whole another episode of just like not feeling shame and resentment and anger towards yourself for like the places that you are in your life. Because I think the older you get, the more you realize that you are at the place in your life because of the decisions you've made, and not because of anything or anybody else. And it's up to you to heal. It's up to you to cope. It's up to you to fix whatever is continuing to lead you down a broken path. And it's really easy when you're unhealed to be like, well, that person hurt me, or this person wronged me. We've all been hurt. We've all been wronged. And like at the end of the day, like you have to choose to heal, and you're responsible for yourself and your behaviors and the way that you cope and the way that you process things. And if you don't like the way that you continue to have outcomes, then you need to get help to figure out your patterns and like why you're creating those things. So I rejoice in who I am and the choices that I make. And even though they're not all right, I know that my intentions are pure. So those are my like affirmations and mantras that I currently am living by, but I really suggest like if you're kind of in the thick of it, like trying to come up with a few things that really kind of help you to refocus, just like meditation. Like if you have a phrase or a mantra that you can like, you might get, your brain might spiral off a little bit, but then you come back to that phrase. That was like good acting. She's a dancer now. If you didn't see that on the YouTube, make sure you subscribe because you can see me do some dance moves. Okay. Number 2 is distraction. I really like, I've talked about the doom scroll, but like, it is really easy for me to just be like, I can't talk to anybody. I can't go anywhere. I'm going to lay on my couch and I'm going to rot. But that is really, really unhealthy in this season of your life. If you are really in the messy middle, distraction is your best friend. And like figure out not just like a distraction of like, oh, okay, I'm going to turn on a TV show. Like figuring out like what really gets you out of that headspace. So for me, it's like being with friends. I like, even if it's just like processing a little bit with friends and then like going, like being out to dinner and like you're having other things going on, traveling, like just finding some distractions can be really, really helpful in this time where, it's again, like it's the least amount of times that you can like spiral in a day. And I find that like distraction is the best way to kind of avoid that. I always like a distraction is one of my things that like, even with parenting, if you're in the messy middle of parenting, distraction is your literal best friend. Like my mom's always said, like Kendra's the queen of distraction. Cause my kids will like be complaining about a banana and like, I will turn that into like, we're going to have a theater play about bananas. Like it is like, you just have to be willing to just shift and distract. And, anyways, that's a whole side note on parenting, but I do think that distraction can be really powerful. Playing out both scenarios endlessly is very helpful somehow. I think that we tend to hyperfixate on one outcome, right? So I'm going through this and I think I'm going through a breakup and like I'm going to be alone forever. And then I think about like, well, how am I going? Like that sucks. I'm like, my kids are going to move out and then I'm going to be depressed. And then I'm going to think, and I like hyperfixate on like all the ways that like nobody's going to choose me and nobody's going to want me. And I'm going to be just like locked up in my little old lady shoe for the rest of my life, being completely alone because I have 5 children and too big of a personality and all of these like, you know, negative self-talk thoughts that I have. But most of my time spent out playing out that scenario versus like, okay, well, what if like, let's fantasize for a minute. What if it all works out? What if it actually like works out better than I expected? Like, how does this person interact with me? Who is this person? What does our life look like in 5 years? What does our life look like in 10 years? What version of myself am I? How do I operate? Like, there's this thing going around, I think it's on TikTok or something. It's research I've been doing on TikTok. And this, like, it's basically like having Chat GPT kind of show you like what your perfect life like would look like. And then it breaks it down backwards into like your perfect, how do you get there? And so you basically tell like Chat GPT, like, I want to be this person. And like, you go and describe it in depth. Like, I want to show up here and like dress like this and all this stuff. And like Chat GPT kind of like creates this like reality for you. And then like you say like, okay, if that's the life I want, like what would I have to do for like a daily routine to get to that place? And it's sort of like a instructional vision board, I guess, if you will. But it's a good exercise. And like, we always just assume worst case scenario of like, oh, it's going to just be this. You have to play out both scenarios so that they have equal playing time in your brain. Seeking wisdom, I think whether it is on, like with, you know, a therapist, whether like, I know I talk a lot about TikTok and I joke about it, but like there are a lot of like really profound things that I've learned on that platform from people who are experts in like attachment therapy or, you know, inner child stuff. Like there's a therapist that she's actually going to be coming on the podcast, but she, really like I've done a session with her about like working on like inner child and like it's parts therapy basically. But like she's somebody that I found on TikTok and like watched a few of her videos. They really resonated with me. Like she was very wise. So I booked an appointment with her and like learned a lot and like really had like a profound impact on my journey through like all of this messiness in my life. And being willing to be a learner and seeking wisdom instead of just like suffering in your circumstances can be really helpful. So again, like that's church, that's journaling, that's like finding an expert in something. You guys have heard Dr. Jake on the podcast. Like there's so many resources. We are in a time and place where you have everything you could possibly want at your fingertips. And I don't know why like people don't use it. Like they don't tap into those things. I understand like financially you can't like book every therapist and try everything, but like there's a lot. TikTok is 100% free and truly, like I know some people will be like, oh, TikTok therapists or whatever. There's real fucking therapists on there too that are really, really helpful. And I think that also goes along with like finding friends that you see as wise and that have what you want to have. So if I'm in the messy middle of like feeling like relationship is hard and feeling alone and lonely and all this stuff, like I find people who I admire and like who seem to have that part of their life sort of, wrinkled out or ironed out a little bit. And I'm able to kind of seek wisdom from those people. Like what's something that helped in this? Don't be afraid to ask people. Like people want to share their experiences. They want to help you. And to me, like if you're not willing to learn and seek wisdom and gather like as many nuggets as you can from the people in your life and the people not directly in your life, but that are accessible to you, you're doing yourself a disservice. Another one is sitting in the discomfort. I'm sorry, I hate to say it and I hate to experience it and I hate it every single day, but sitting in it and just letting it like shape you. I kind of look at this as like, I'm going to speak for myself, but I know that probably like a lot of you guys feel this way because we're all human and it's the human experience. But like I have this feeling of like, I want everything in my life just like played out. I want it like done. I want it checked off. I want it like, I want it all laid out beautifully in front of me, ideally in like a pretty little Pinterest grid of like what my life is going to look like and how it's going to be. And I want to like rush through fixing things and I want to heal this part of myself. And I just want it all to be done. Like I'm not afraid of doing the work, but like, hurry up and do the work because I don't have time for this. And then I have a therapist be like, bitch, where are you going? Like you got kids, you've got a beautiful home, you've got a beautiful life. Like you have a job. Like what is the fucking hurry? What is the hurry? And the hurry is like, I don't like to sit in the discomfort because it is hard and you have to sit in the suck sometimes. And it is intended to help you and to break you free of like your comfort zone. My comfort zone is like knowing the future and not having anything be up in the air and having my like, my buttons in a row. Buttons are always in a row, my ducks in a row. And it's really like the biggest thing that I've learned in this part of my life is that like I just got to sit in the discomfort and just be okay with that because otherwise like I jump into old coping habits and mechanisms of like going to find the next person or masking how I feel or pretending I don't hurt or whatever. And then like I'm back to square one. Like it's just a repetitive cycle. And so sitting in the discomfort and like feeling it, letting yourself just like fucking cry. Like there are moments where like I used to run from that. Like I would find a million other things to do and like be like, I'm fine. Like I've got a hard shell, whatever. Like I'm a teddy bear and I'm a softie and like I need a good cry every so often, day, hour. But really like it's therapeutic. It's so healing and it like helps you. Like you have to get those emotions out and feel those things. The only way through like so much of the mess is really to like feel it and to experience it and not to rush through it and not to fix it and not to band-aid it. Because again, like that stuff doesn't go away. It just gets like suppressed and it gets deeper and deeper. And then like the next thing happens inevitably and like it's right back there. So just really letting yourself feel, letting yourself sit in it, letting yourself cry. Those things, as much as they are horrifically painful and hard and scary, honestly, they're really important. I think getting some perspective. So my therapist said something to me that like really, I was like, yeah, you have a valid point. Hate to say it, but you do. She was like, you're 35. You're one third of the way through your life. Maybe a little bit less, depending on how many cigarettes I smoke, I guess. I don't smoke cigarettes, but if I did. And Anyway, maybe I'll pick that habit up. Honestly, it might be a great distraction. Anyways, she was like, you're only 1/3 of the way through your life. And so like, if you have some perspective, like you're in this massive hurry, like you're going to die next week. Like, oh, I got to get it all sorted out. I got to feel loved. I got to like, and she's like, you have 2/3 of your life. Like you have arguably like, you know, let's just say I live till 85. I have 50 years left to like really experience the things that I want to experience and really feel the love the way I want to feel loved, and like, you know, have my shit together and be this level of success and all of these things that like I aspire to be, and that like are my definition of like, you've made it, or you're not in the mess, or you're not in the whatever. And it just like really, I remember like she said that like in a session, and then I was walking Baylor home from the bus stop and I was like, man, I'm only 35. Like I have so much time left. And you start to just like be like, it's not that bad. Like it's not that serious. It's not that urgent. And we lose perspective so fast. Like it is so easy to just be like all enveloped in inside your brain and like just spiraling. And then you're like, my mom didn't meet her husband of, you know, 16 years or whatever until she was like well into her 40s. Like you know, there, and then you see like stories of people that have fallen in love in their 50s, and like, granted, I would like to fall in love before I turn 50 or be like in a scenario of health, like emotional health and all these things. But like, we have time, and like, it's really important to remember like where you are, where you're sitting, what's happening around you, like all of the other things, and like gather some perspective and like sit the fuck down. Like it's going to be fine. And sometimes I have to tell myself that. I'm like, sit down. Like you are fine. It's going to be okay. There's not this massive urgency that you're putting on yourself. And really, like, if you just take it a little bit slower, and like, even if I'm like, okay, I'm going to give myself the next 5 years to like, just figure it out. Like by 40, if I have not figured out this part of my life, then like, okay, like then we can kind of take the next step and like figure out like what's really wrong with you. But really, like, even if you look back 5 years, if you look back 10 years, like how massively your life has changed in 5 years. I know for me, my life is 100% different. And my therapist was even saying this. She's like, every 7 years, like our DNA, like our body changes, like our bones change, I don't know if our DNA changes, but like our cells turn over every 7 years. And so she's like, you're a new person. Like you have new desires, you have new beliefs, you have new needs, like all of these things. And so it's really unfair to just be like, I got to figure it out all right now. Like give yourself some time, have some perspective, and understand that like, it won't be like this for long. It won't be like this for long. Okay. This is another TikTok lesson that I learned, and I thought this was really, you guys are like, can you stop watching TikTok? This is really kind of was like an aha moment. My frontal cortex fully developed when I heard this. I was like, huh, yeah, okay, that makes total sense. The rest of my life just fell into place. We've talked about this. I spiral on things and like I obsess about things, and it's really easy for me to not be present in like any given moment because my brain is somewhere else. I might be checking my phone to see if I've gotten a text from somebody, or checking my email to see if this thing has come through, or whatever. And I remember this was like rampant in my divorce. Like I was like, I couldn't focus on anything because I was like, has this divorce or has this email came through from my lawyer? Has my ex-husband like approved this thing? Has this been like come through? Like I just really was like, I couldn't focus on anything. And she's like, do what you're doing. And I was like, say again? But really like do like whatever it is you're doing, just be doing that. Only that, like a singular focus. So she's like, if you are cleaning your house, put your phone away and clean your house. Like your task at this moment in time is cleaning your house. If you are watching a show with your kids, how many of us are like scrolling and watching? Like, no, you're going to watch the show with your kids. Like do what you're doing in that moment. If you're out to lunch with a friend, be out to lunch. Stop checking your phone. And it gives you some like power and control back. I know for me, like sometimes I feel powerless in like these moments, and just like everything is so out of my control that like I feel weak. I feel just like distressed. And so taking some of your power back and being like, this is the moment that I'm doing this, and I'm doing only this. And so it's been like really, since I've heard that, like it's been very beneficial to me to be it's easy to say like, oh, you just got to be present. You got to be present with your day. You got to like, but like, what is the tangible way to do that? And this felt like some sort of like tangible way for me to kind of make that a habit. So like if I'm like showering, for example, this is maybe embarrassing. Well, kind of, but whatever. This is all embarrassing. Okay. But like I bring my phone in the shower. Like if somebody texts me, I'm like, I want to be able to text right back, or like see what's happening, or like if I don't want to miss a call or whatever from certain people, right? Like this is obviously an isolated issue, but she's like, if you're showering, leave your phone outside of the bathroom and like go take an enjoyable shower. Like stop worrying that you're going to miss something. And then you can come back and like, check whatever you're wanting to check or obsess over whatever you're wanting to obsess in the moment that's designated for that. Okay, I'm going to spend the next 5 minutes like on my phone and like whatever. And then you walk away. Like, so maybe partially this is like an obsession. Like I have an anxious attachment style. And so like, it's partly that for me. Like I feel like I constantly have to like check in and like, I want to be like aware and like present and, like attentive to like whatever's coming into my phone for that in that situation. But I was like, man, guilty as charged. Like I bring my phone into the shower so that like I don't miss a call, I don't miss a text or whatever. And it's like, how long a shower can be long, I guess, but like how long is a shower? 10 minutes and I can't part ways. Like it's such a toxic, unhealthy pattern. And you don't realize like how toxic and unhealthy it is until you separate yourself from it. And I'm like, oh, like, wow, this feels like I've gained some control back and I feel more in charge and I feel like I have the power back and all of these things. So I guess I just like repeat to myself, like, do what you're doing. Do what you're doing. If I'm packing lunches, I'm packing lunches. I'm not like on my phone and packing lunches, or I'm not like, trying to my brain's not trying to be somewhere else. Like I'm just really singularly focused on one task. And then I think the last thing here that I will say is it's really tempting for me to add in more chaos to distract from the chaos that's already existing in my life. I.e. like fostering puppies in some of my darkest moments, because it was like a great distraction, which it is, but like that to me is like an unhealthy distraction because I'm actually adding in like more stress and more chaos and just like piling it on top of myself to a place where I'm like so overly like, I'm so over the top, so overdone that like I actually can't even function at all. And so I think just like being really cognizant that like you're going to be more tired when you're in this like the mess of your life. You're going to have like less of an attention span, be less tolerable to things. And so really just being cognizant of like who you're bringing in your life, what you're bringing in your life, what kind of chaos that you're adding in that might not be beneficial. And just like really giving like the space and the grace to like process and heal and work through and like sit in the shit really. So, anyways, I think one of the things that's important to remember is we don't stay in these places forever. They ebb and flow. And just because you are not in one of these places right now doesn't mean that something might not happen. You might get a diagnosis, or you might have a relationship issue or whatever. And like, it's important to take care of yourself when you're in those like highs, but also to know like when you're in the lows, like the ways to kind of get through them, basically, like the ways to kind of cope and trudge through these situations, and also to have the hope and the perspective that like it's not going to be like this forever, and you will get through this and you will come out stronger without a question. Like we don't come out of these experiences unlearned. Like we come out with wisdom, we come out with strength, we come out with a little more like knowing, and at the end of the day, like you're going to be okay. You're going to be absolutely fine. You're going to be more than okay, honestly. So thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to The Summer of Me. You can listen to episodes on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen to podcasts, or you can watch on YouTube. Come hang out and follow my chaos on Instagram @KendraForNow. See you next time.